good afternoon, Scott.
Hey, Don.
So we're going to talk about one of the hottest topics that there's been in these reunion discussions, and that is, this concern that how will three really different dioceses learn how to be one diocese? There's this perception they all have their own individual characters or distinct theological like stances or liturgical ways of being, or even are just so different culturally from one another that would be a challenge. And before we talk about any challenge there, is this something you found to be true in this, discernment process, that they're that different?
I've certainly found that people some people are concerned that maybe they're that different. But what I've actually found throughout the process of the town hall meetings, both the Zoom ones and the ones in person, and the work of the various task forces set up by the steering committees, is really there's a great deal more that sort of binds us together, or that we share in common. Each diocese has, to an extent, some urban areas with larger congregations. Each has a significant number of smaller congregations and rural areas. So much like the state of Wisconsin, our diocese really very much kind of reflect that lived experience. And yeah, when it comes to worship, certainly some of our parishes are a little more on the high church end of things, and some are a little bit on the lower end, but most frankly are kind of right in the middle. And when it comes to theology, how we understand or talk about God, or how we live our faith, we find there too that really, as Episcopal churches, a lot of our parishes are very much really in the same fold and woven from the same cloth.
With so much of that shared, commonality, are there still any differences that would concern you if we move forward towards reunion?
Don, I think the biggest um, differences, if you will, are just the fact that that we don't know each other as well as we might like to, and so I have a feeling the more connections we can make with lay leaders, with clergy connecting with each other, I have a feeling that some of those differences are certainly going to be uncovered as really just kind of opportunities to grow deeper in connection and relationship with each other. All three dioceses have congregations that are struggling in different ways. And I think, though, even in that, it's not so much a difference as another maybe thing that we share in common as we together talk about mission and ministry, and how it is that we try to reach out to and care for everybody who is a part of our faith community.
Yeah, you said there are struggling parishes in all dioceses. That shouldn't be a surprise, but is it a similar types of struggles? I mean, do we share in struggles across all three?
Yeah, I would say we certainly do.
Yeah.
Right now that the reality that we're all facing in church, and not only in the Episcopal Church, but really in Christian denominations writ large, is just a question of a great deal of change that we are dealing with in terms of participation and numbers, and sort of the way that we have been doing church, if you will, up to now, and ways that we might be challenged to stretch or imagine or reshape things going forward. So yeah, I think the struggles we share around viability. Some of our smaller congregations certainly, I think, are asking pretty existential kinds of questions, and that's something we share across the board, certainly. I will say there are some small but mighty, mighty churches spread across those three dioceses. So not just question of size, but really adaptability, change, and how are we going to do mission and ministry in this time in the life of the church.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I mean, struggles are in front of us all the time. Those of us that are, work in these churches and our folks in the pews. But Have you also seen some strengths that we share across all three dioceses?
I sure have. Like a lot of people in the Episcopal Church, I am one of that 70% of folks who choose the Episcopal Church coming from different backgrounds. So we are very much a church in lots of ways of choice, whether you have been in the Episcopal Church all your life and you are rooted in it and you love it and you can't imagine your life without it, or as I said, one of those people who have found home in the Episcopal Church. That is something we share all across the state, a real love for our parishes, a real love for this way of being and doing church. We have amazingly dedicated lay leaders. We are engaging in significant outreach in parishes of all sizes and in all places. And of course, there is just something so profoundly beautiful and inviting about the way that we worship, right? We don't have to be up on Sunday morning or be in any special mood or frame of mind. We simply can show up, and that beautiful liturgy will just sort of envelop us and carry us and bring us through with our brothers and sisters. And yeah, all across the church in the state of Wisconsin, there's just a deep, deep love for coming together in worship.
What would the witness of a reunified diocese be to the state as a whole?
I certainly think there is. I don't have to tell you or anybody looking at this video that we live in some mightily divided times right now. And this is seen and experienced in all kinds of ways. We live in a fractured time. I think there is something very innovative and hope-filled, and I would even say prophetic, about these three dioceses saying, you know what, we share a common root. We began as one. And we are going to, again, find that deeper connection. We're going to live into that reality. It's going to have some bumps and some twists and turns for sure, but we really feel called to be the Episcopal Church in Wisconsin. I think the difference that might make around advocacy, particularly for those on the periphery of society, on the margins, I think the difference that might make in terms of the way that we try to focus the values or the goals of society, or the way that we urge outreach or participation and remembering, as Jesus said, the least of his sisters and brothers, all of that, I think, can only be compounded if we speak with one voice across the state.
Well, thanks for your time today, Scott. I really look forward to seeing where all of this discussion goes, and regardless, getting to meet some of these people throughout the state. So
absolutely, thank you. And I think that's one of the real benefits of this process. We're in the hands of the Holy Spirit, certainly. And so however this will unfold, it will unfold. But I think a real gift and a real blessing has just been all the connections made already, and all the ways that we can even now begin to see wonderful possibilities for reaching out and collaboration and relationship. So thank you.
all right. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, Don.